A very good morning to Mr. Seah, our invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, and Akong Ama. Can you give yourself a big round of applause? Yes. Why applause? Because today is going to be an enriching Sunday. As I mentioned earlier to everybody, today we're going to acquire a lot of knowledge on healthcare and also your own wellness. All right, once again, I would like to remind everybody, the lucky draw slips is a combination of a two portion, small portion and a bigger portion. Do drop the bigger portion into the box, all right? And remember your lucky draw number. Feedback form, please fill it up, and then you can actually exchange for a goodie bag right outside at the registration. For those friends who have not got your feedback form, don't worry. Later on, we will just bring it to you during the tea break. Okay? A very warm welcome once again to taking a time off to attend this Empowering Your Life seminar, organized by Prime Magazine. Prime is a lifestyle magazine that aims to empower our readers in health and nutritional information so that they can enjoy and reap the richest years of your lives. So we would like first to thank SCA Hygiene Singapore Private Limited for sponsoring the event and NTUC FairPrice for their support. Can we give them a big round of applause, everybody? So with now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to invite for his welcoming speech. Please welcome CEO of NTUC FairPrice. Let's welcome Mr. Seah Peng.
Very distinguished, all the list of panel of distinguished speakers and the panelists that will join us later. Ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, a very good afternoon and welcome to the inaugural Empowering Your Life seminar. The profile of our country's population is aging rapidly. I think today, 1 in 6 people, they are above 60 years old. By 2030, this number of elderly will increase significantly, where 1 in 3 will be above the age of 60. Actually, I'll be one of them. And I think some of my younger colleagues too. I think the issue of aging is being addressed through a multi-pronged approach by various agencies, with issues ranging from healthcare to urban planning. At NTUC FairPrice, we are also doing our part to empower our silver population to age gracefully through various initiatives. So this is a key reason for our collaborating with partners like SCA Hygiene Singapore and also Spring Publishing in organizing today's seminar to support the elderly and their caregivers. I have both my parents, my mom and dad, they are in their 80s, not as fit and mobile as all of you here. So I know how hard it is to be a caregiver. So my home is, my 2 children are now in their teens, so they're studying, so they're not in Singapore now. So my home is actually like an old age home. Serious, I'm not kidding. So I'm fortunate that both my sisters who stay next to me, they become full-time caregivers, just like my wife is also a full-time caregiver. So I think for both my parents, they have 3 full-time caregivers. And I know my 2 sisters and my wife is also quite tough on them. And this includes the domestic help that we have. So this seminar, I think there are many relevant and interesting topics of interest, and I know it includes diabetes prevention, mental wellness, menopause, osteoporosis, and also something which I think most of us like, a cooking demo. I think the various experts in their specialized fields have been invited to provide interesting and helpful information and tips which will help all of us and our loved ones to age gracefully. As a leading retailer in Singapore, I think we recognize that FairPrice has become a part of many families' lives, both young and old. To cater to an increasingly elderly population, we have designed senior-friendly features at our supermarkets. and that includes rest areas to take a short break from shopping for groceries, and also wheelchair-friendly checkout counters. We are further piloting these new features to incorporate in our new stores, like call buttons for assistance, and even magnifying glasses. Yes, magnifying glasses to ease the checking of product information if needed. Because many of us now, when we buy anything, we also like to know what we are buying, what is inside the product. So many things that you buy, you look behind, read the label. But for me, even the label is very small. So we're trying this out in some of our stores. We provide magnifying glasses so that make it easier for all of us. So these are some of the features that we have introduced in some of our stores at the more matured estates at Bukit Merah and Lengkok Bahru. We are about to, these are the first two stores that we are trying it out. We intend to roll it to more and more stores in different parts of Singapore. Beyond these features, we have also embarked on a specialized training program for all our staff at these stores that is specifically geared towards serving seniors shopping at our store. At FairPrice, I think we are firm believers of active aging, and we're happy to see seniors getting out on their own to shop for groceries and to stay active with their families. And this is actually one of the objectives when we came out many years ago, more than 10 years ago, with the seniors discount on Tuesday and the Pioneer Generation discount on Mondays. These are schemes basically to encourage our seniors to leave their home, get out of their home, and mingle with the community. And many of them now, actually, when you go to our stores, you see 3 generations, and it's a very nice, it's a very nice sight, and it's a very good form of family bonding too. We also embrace a silver workforce with close to 15% of our staff who are 60 years of age or older. So actually at FairPrice, if you go to our FairPrice store, we have over 1,000 staff who are 60 years and older. So quite a common sight. And we're very proud of our silver workforce because number one, our matured staff, they work very hard. Not only do they work very hard, their memory is super, I tell you. You go to our cashiers, all the younger ones, all of us here, the younger ones, including myself, we cannot remember, but our cashiers can remember many of the details. And not only that, I think a bit unfortunate for the younger ones because the older ones tend to take MC less for some reason. So we hope that through today's session, you too, I'm sure the rest of us as well, will be inspired to empower and to enable your life. Health and happiness are key to any person's well-being, whatever age we are. As Betty Friedan, an American writer, once said, and I quote her, "Aging is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength." So on this inspirational note, let us get today's proceedings on the way. But before that, I would like to thank our partners from SCA Hygiene, Singapore, and also Spring Publishing for making this program possible today. And to all our speakers here, they are all in this room, for their time and their effort in sharing their knowledge with all of us. To all our participants, thank you for attending, and I wish you an empowering and satisfying journey in your silver years. As the year is coming to a close, let me also take this opportunity to wish all of you and your family a very, may 2016 bring you a year that will be filled with happiness, with good health, with fulfillment, and things that will keep us going, keep us active, keep us strong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Seah. And now, taking this opportunity, I would like to introduce to you SCA Hygiene. Our SCA Hygiene actually manufacture paper, for example, adult diapers, the baby diapers, and also very popular in Hong Kong, the Tempo tissue paper. Who is using Tempo tissue paper? You like it? Yeah. It's quite rarely can be found in Singapore in a few outlets in NTUC, right? Yeah, and also at the same time, in your goodie bags, there's also 1 packet of Tempo as well. Shall we give them 2 packets? Can we give SCA Hygiene a big round of applause to thank them? Thank you very much. So with this, I would like to show you a video. So I would like to have your attention on the projector screens, a 2-minute video to introduce SCA. Right now, we're going to start with the first topic for today, for this seminar. Diabetes is a disease that not only affects your blood sugar. Do you know that it also affects your urinary system? Diabetes is also known to be associated with an earlier onset and increased severity of urologic diseases such as bladder dysfunction, urinary tract infections. Today, we are very honored to have with us in this seminar Dr. Peng, a consultant endocrinologist working in Mount Elizabeth Novena and also the Vice President of Diabetic Society of Singapore, to share with us his experience and knowledge on this topic. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Peng.
POH, Mr. Seah, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Excellent, this works now. I like to walk, so I'll stay away far from there. Thank you all for coming. Good afternoon. This is a packed crowd today. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I am very passionate about diabetes. I don't know if any of you heard me speak before. I speak in many places, and I truly believe, and I really share the motto of today's talk, empowerment. Diabetes is a lifestyle. Diabetes is, well, unfortunately, affects a huge number of Singaporeans today and many people around the world. Now, just a few things to talk about before I even begin. This is a bit of history talking about urinary tract, but that's not important. One question to the crowd, and I think our MC gave a bit of it away. Who thinks diabetes is just about blood sugar? Raise your hand. Diabetes is high blood sugar, only high blood sugar. One. Everyone knows already. Then no need to give talk. Okay, you all know already. Okay, You're right. If one thing you come up with today, diabetes is not just blood sugars. We know the dangers of diabetes, but everyone says, oh, I got diabetes, I cannot eat this already, I cannot eat that. If it was so simple, I got no job. You don't need me around. Just cut down. Ask Mr. Google. He will tell you what to do. But I'm here to tell you, one, yes, diabetes affects the urinary function, but how? And more importantly, not only does it affect the urinary function, what can we do? Do we just cut down our food and everything will be fine? Unfortunately not. It's not quite as simple as that. And what I want to go through in the next 20 minutes to half an hour today is to try and explain a little bit about what is diabetes, how and why does it affect the urinary function, and more important, at the end, I want to talk about empowerment. What can you do? How do you do it? And I'll tell you now, I'll give you a secret before I even go on. It's not always what you eat, it's how you eat. It's not always how much you exercise, it's how you exercise. In Singapore, very busy lah. If I tell you go and exercise now, everybody will go and exercise. But how much? How to exercise? How to eat? And I'll try to address some of this today. Now, this is where I work. I also work in the Diabetes Society of Singapore. And basically, this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the challenge of type 2 diabetes. Why have we got so many new drugs? This year, we got new drug again. But why aren't we winning? What is happening to me? When I have diabetes, what is happening? Then I want to talk about the urinary function in diabetes. How does it affect? Well, we know that when in diabetes, you drink a lot of water, you pass a lot of urine, you get infections. Why? We're going to talk about neurogenic bladder means the bladder is affected by nerves. We talk about kidney failure. How does it affect the kidney? And more importantly, at the end, what can I do now? How do I eat and live well? Very easy to tell you, go and eat, go cut down your food. How? What can I do? And treatment options. So let's talk about the challenge of type 2 diabetes. What is happening to me now? Now, the simple principle is that in diabetes, unfortunately, as we age, it gets more and more prevalent. You can see this is the NHS data in Singapore. The pointer doesn't work, sorry, from 2010. And what you basically see is that as we get older, unfortunately, the incidence, the risk of diabetes goes up over time, and you can see that compared to the 18s to 29s and the 60s to 69s, significant difference. So unfortunately, as we get older, the risk of diabetes goes up. But why? Well, diabetes, again, is a lot more than blood sugars. I always like to compare it to cars. We are all little machines at the end of the day. What happens? We go out there, we had lunch, all of us had lunch, yeah? So we eat lunch, the energy is absorbed as food, we eat food, it's absorbed, and it goes to the rest of the body. And that's how we use, that's why we eat. We take the food, we eat, the energy moves to the rest of the body, and then we function, and that's normal. Similarly, like a car, you put petrol in, the petrol goes in the car moves, simple. So when we are young, we are this nice swanky car, moves very well, so in the swanky car, petrol goes in, what happens? Very fast, very effective, because we are still new, the car's very new, you know. Then we get a bit older, the car a bit slower and so forth. What happens? Petrol goes in, the car a little bit slower, doesn't quite move so well already. Then we go up to this, and then we are much, much older. And then petrol goes in, can't even get out of the screen. But I say this an example, but why? You must understand, the car is getting older. This is the same car. And as the car gets older, the energy, the got blocking here, blockage there, the petrol cannot move already, no. So, and also got leakage of fuel, the engine overheat, you have to press harder for it to move, and there's wear and tear. And that's normal, we understand that. As our cars, our machines get older, and unfortunately, the human body is no different. You take there's a young gentleman and an older gentleman, and I'm not doing anything to the screen at all. We consume food, and we use that energy. Unfortunately, as we get older and we consume food, we don't utilize that energy so well. The energy is stuck. So we eat the food, normally you're young, or all the energy go around. If you have diabetes, you eat the food, it's stuck. That's why your sugars are high. Why is it high in the blood? The blood is the one that sends the sugar everywhere. It cannot be absorbed anymore. It's stuck. It cannot be utilized. Our body is getting older. It cannot utilize energy anymore. So in a car, you get inefficient energy distribution, engine overload, wear and tear. what do you get when you get older as a human? You get diabetes. You get high cholesterol. You try to pump the energy, it's harder to pump. You get high blood pressure. You get wear and tear. So I think the most important thing, when we go around and we say, oh, I got diabetes, you got high sugar. Yes, you do. Of course you do. That's what everyone recognizes as diabetes. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. What we don't appreciate in diabetes, many of us, is there's a lot more underneath that. When someone comes into you and says, doctor, I got diabetes. Yes, you do. But everything else is going wrong too. It's not just sugar. If it's just sugar, just stop eating sugar. Very simple. But there's a lot more. And unfortunately, all of this blood pressure, cholesterol, arteriosclerosis, obesity, insulin resistance, osteoporosis, all this, including the sugar, affects your health. And in this case, urinary function. All of these mechanisms in diabetes is a wear and tear mechanism. As we age, some of us age faster than others, and diabetes is just one of the mechanisms in which what you see and the damage it can cause. And why is diabetes dangerous? We know this. This is nothing new. We've seen this graph in one way or another. We know it causes eye disease, kidney disease, stroke, heart disease, nerve damage. We know this. This is not anything new. However, what we're going to talk about today is diabetic kidney disease. How does it affect the kidney? How do we get urinary symptoms? And how do we get end-stage kidney disease? So I think the first thing I want to mention again today, the first take-home message is that diabetes is a lot more than blood sugars. It's metabolic dysfunction. If you learn one thing today, learn that diabetes is not just blood sugars. It's metabolic dysfunction. In other words, our bodies cannot process energy so well. I think we all know this. Diabetes is associated with many potentially devastating complications. It can literally ruin someone's life, heart disease, kidney disease, and so forth. And urinary symptoms are certainly one of them. So complications of diabetes on the urinary function. How does it affect it? Well, why do we drink a lot? We know that diabetes, one of the symptoms is you drink a lot of water, you pass a lot of urine. Why? Well, think of it this way. We're mostly made of water. 60% of our bodies are made of water. So imagine we are this cup of water. What happens in diabetes? We know metabolic dysfunction, but we also know the sugar get a bit higher, right? So what happens when you start adding sugar into this water? You add. What's going to happen to the water? Get very thick, isn't it? Your water, you keep on adding, the body gets very thick, there's so much, the blood is hard to move, isn't it? It becomes very, very thick. What do? The body says, wow, I don't like it, it's very, very thick, the blood's very thick, what do? You drink. And that's the first mechanism. You drink because your body doesn't like the blood to be so thick. You drink to dilute. You dilute because you want to get back to the normal concentration of your water, of your blood. What happens after that? You want to drink a lot. So when you start drinking a lot, unfortunately, you don't treat the sugar. You don't know. You don't control. The sugar is still very high. So as you keep on drinking, there's still high sugars. What happens? You start to leak out. You start to pass a lot of water. You drink, you pass out, you drink, you pass out, but the sugars are still high. And that's one of the mechanisms that people have. In diabetes, sugar going high, very thirsty, because the blood's very thick, drink a lot of water. Unfortunately, the blood's still very thick, the water starts to leak out. Then there's an increased risk of infections. As we know that there's a medium, these are Petri dishes. Essentially, these are what we use in the lab. If you want to see whether someone has an infection or something, what is this medium? Sugar. Essentially sugar. What you try to do is essentially, it's a medium, it's a place where bacteria like to grow. Because there's food. Anywhere there's food, we always the bacteria like to grow. Same thing with our urine system. If we start passing out very sweet urine, in our urine, basically, the bacteria likes to live there because it's very nice, I've got a lot of food. So, you get a lot of infections. Basically, when your sugars go up, there's a lot of sugar there, the bacteria, wow, very nice to grow here. It starts growing there, it's very hard to get rid of it, and you get recurrent infections. So this is a classical reason on why people with diabetes, most common, wow, very thirsty, I always drink water. Then pass a lot of water. Then sometimes got pain, I pass water, very painful, Why? Because sugar very high, you drink water to try and dilute. As you drink more, you pass more out. Unfortunately, the sugar's sweet and you get infections. So there you go. How about diabetes and nerve damage? Now, we are aware that as we pass water, we're going to go to the toilet now, you go to the toilet, you pass water, and you control your bladder, you've got no time, you're still on the train, you have to hold for a while. What's controlling that? Nerves. At the end of the day, your nerves are the one that controls your bladder function. Unfortunately, we know that diabetes can affect nerves and cause nerve damage. How does it do that? Well, this is a normal nerve, this is a nerve fiber, and as we know, everything needs blood right now. Without blood, you cannot live, correct or not? So, if you look at a normal nerve fiber, you've got nerves going around, you've got blood vessels that are going in. We know because of metabolic dysfunction, because of blood pressure, cholesterol, and high sugars, what does that do? It makes the nerve, the blood vessels, diseased. And when that happens, the blood becomes thinner. The blood vessel becomes thinner. So the blood supply gets less. The nerves don't get enough blood. And what happens when you don't have enough blood? You start to shrink. You start to die off. So what you have, nerves start to shrivel and blood vessels start to disappear. And this is where you start getting problems because your nerve is damaged. How does it affect you? We know of diabetic nerve damage. Everyone say, the feet cannot feel anything or nighttime or like ants. That one is common. Maybe some of us are not so aware that it can affect the bladder function as well. Nerves are everywhere. We know everywhere has nerves. Without it, you can't move, nerves and muscles. And the urinary system is one of them. How does it affect? Well, remember what I said. How does the nerves control your bladder? Well, for starters, if you are in a train, you have to go, you have to kick properly, you have to go, you have to wait, and nerves control that. But sometimes if the nerves don't work properly, you want to let out, you can't, it's stuck. So you try to pass water, it's very hard because the nerves very hard to relax the muscle. There's one way. The other way is that it makes it very weak. It doesn't control very well. So you cannot hold. You got a bit of, you feel like you want to go, you better go now. If not, it's going to be an accident. And unfortunately, these are complications of diabetes. You have poor control of your muscles, your bladder is overactive, you just went to the toilet, but now you need to go again, and you can't control. So these are huge problems. And another way, how does diabetes in the nerves affect the urinary system? Well, I told you, if one of the mechanisms is that if you can't pass water well, or it's stuck, you just can't pass water anymore, what happens? Essentially, the bladder starts to get bigger, pressure goes back as the urine, because the urine is not moving anymore, and what happens to the kidney? The kidney starts to swell up, and you get kidney failure. This is one of the mechanisms, all right? And of course, we know that high blood sugars can affect kidney function. Same thing with blood vessels. All the kidneys receive blood as well. All the blood supply within the kidney requires blood. And as blood vessels get damaged, essentially your kidneys get damaged as well. And that leads to kidney failure. So I think the second take-home message is very important. I think diabetes can affect urinary function. It can affect because increased thirst, we drink a lot of water, we pass a lot of water, we get a lot of infections, you can get nerve damage, and unfortunately, through a variety of mechanisms, we can get kidney failure. All this is very bad news, right? Not nice to talk about on Sunday, isn't it? Let's talk about more interesting things. What can I do now? All the stuff I told you is real. Unfortunately, these are real, genuine problems we see day in, day out. But what can I do? Well, there are a lot of things you can do. Living well and eating well, obviously, is a very good thing, and treatment options. Now, second most important thing today, if you have diabetes, you're worried, doctor, I got diabetes, I'm going to charm already on my eye, my kidney, and I'm going to have problems. Take-home message, diabetes complications can be prevented. I say that again, diabetes complications can be prevented. How do you prevent them? You get your blood sugars under control. Not only get blood sugars under control, you improve your metabolism. What is diabetes? Not just high sugars, metabolic dysfunction. Improve your metabolism, and then you will improve your overall health in diabetes. How do you do that? Well, for starters, I'll tell you now, until it's very late, diabetes has no symptoms. You do not have symptoms until it's very bad. And unfortunately, we do get a random person who unfortunately step on a nail, cannot feel it anymore, and then amputation. That's the first presentation. But I can tell you now that person has to have had diabetes for at least 7 years for this to happen. Screen often. Go to your doctor. It's a simple test. Fast one day, take some time off, check your blood sugars, and basically you can prevent this from happening, okay? Check your blood pressure, check your blood sugars, check your urine. These are all simple tests, very, very straightforward. Please get them done. Don't wait until something happens, then I've got to go and check, because all of these things can be prevented. However, God only gave you 2 kidneys. God only gave you 2 eyes. If the damage is done, it's very hard to reverse it. But if the damage is not done, there's no damage yet, you can prevent damage from happening. Eating well. Well, we know balanced diet and all that, and unfortunately, this is one of my pet peeves. We always talk, hey doctor, what do I do now? Hey, cut down your sugar, eat more vegetables. But they don't really give very much else. How many people have spoken to, they've gone to Google or they talk to people, eat well, cut down this, cut down that. Unfortunately, there's not much principle there, isn't it? Everyone says, cut down. Cut down what? How to cut down? How to eat? Let me give you a few tips today. We don't have enough time to talk about all of that, but I'd like to speak about a few things. First of all, Mr. Seah, I'm very delighted to see about the magnifying glasses. I think it's very, very useful because I'm going to go through one very common thing people ask me. Brown rice and white rice. Now, hopefully people are more awake. Who says brown rice better than white rice? Wow, excellent. Very good, we're all awake. Correct. Brown rice better now. But why? Everyone says brown rice, eat more brown rice. Don't eat white rice, eat more brown rice. Eat more wholemeal. Why? Correct, low GI. However, you're going to go to that in a second. If you look at this, and this is a nutritional fact, so go to shop in NTUC and see if you cannot see very well, see the magnifying glass, because all this is very important. If you look at the calories in brown rice and white rice, in 100 grams, only about 20 kilocalories. Not much, right? 20 kilocalories, I can tell you, is not much. 1 cup of black coffee is 8 calories. So 20 kilocalories, we're not going to argue about it. I would argue almost the same. Then you think about carbohydrate. Doctor, I got diabetes, my sugar go up. Carbohydrate, very important. Look at that. 23, 28, almost the same. Correct? Fair? So how is it effective? Well, as one of your colleagues here mentioned, low GI. Very important. I agree. Low GI. So what happens when you eat food? I told you food goes in, it's absorbed. So why do they say white rice or brown rice is better? When you take 50 grams of white rice, this happens. It absorbs very fast. So sugar go up and it come down. This is normal. So what happens when you take brown rice? Very good. Isn't it? Because the sugar, although the amount of carbohydrate is there, is much more slowly released. So it's very good. So that's why people say, eat more brown rice. But, there's a big but, a very big but. Let me ask you again, which one you think is healthier? If you have this much brown rice, or you have this much white rice? Let me illustrate again. This is the graph you have, 50 gram white rice, 50 gram brown rice. Nobody will argue with you that 50 gram brown rice much, much better, correct? What happens if you took 100 gram of brown rice? Which is better now? 50 gram of white rice or 100 gram of brown rice? Who says 100 gram of brown rice is better now? Excellent. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. You see, when the doctor or dietitian or person tell you to eat more brown rice, eat more wholemeal, it means replace, It does not mean eat more, But it's very true. A lot of people say, eat more noodle. Then they hear, eat more only. So, doctor say, I eat more noodle, extra portion. That is completely wrong. Okay? So, the size of the portions can be more as important as the food consumed. I'll tell you now, we don't have the time for it, but there's no such thing as a diabetes diet. Eat healthy. Eat healthy, eat correctly. Okay? And remember, always go back. When you ask me, doctor, I got diabetes, how do I eat? Think about the car. Think about yourself as an engine. No? You are the ones that's taking in food and processing energy. How are you going to look after a car or a machine like that? You're thing old already, you know. You better be careful with it. How do you, and this is something you must use every day. How do you use something that's old and not working? You put it in the cupboard for 30 days, then you take out, work the whole day? Or you use it slowly every day? How many times have we put something in the cupboard, 3 months later, come out spoiled already? It's all the same. We are all the same. This is the classic story I have. Most of my patients like that. Doctor, don't worry, I got diabetes. Look, every Monday to Saturday, I eat this healthy food, you know. Then Sunday I eat like this. How many people like that? But the point is, you can laugh, but it's true. But you think about how you help yourself. You want to train for marathon, you don't rest 30 days, and the 31 day you do 40 kilometers. You will crash. How do you do it? You exercise, slowly, steady. Your body is processing energy. Your pancreas is the same. You cannot expect it, rest Monday to Saturday. Don't worry, relax. Then Sunday, work very hard, work very hard, work very hard. How do you do that? This is the classic story on why people say, doctor, my diabetes, how come now every year getting worse? No. Yes, we get older. Unfortunately, that one, I cannot help you. Nobody can. However, we have to look after ourselves. Look after yourself. Look after your pancreas. Look after your body. You don't stretch your body. You don't strain your body, isn't it? Nobody over-exercises. Why should you overeat? Take small regular meals throughout the day. It's easy. That's how you pace yourself. You overdo it like that, cham liao. This is the typical, you do this, I guarantee you, over time your diabetes, if you have diabetes, this will get worse and worse and worse because you overstretch, and that's the fastest way you're going to kill your pancreas. Why exercise? Well, same thing. Exercise is very important, but I did mention is how you exercise. The effects of exercise, why is it useful? Well, you increase strength. Why is muscle very important? Muscle is the one that absorbs the sugar. Your muscle is your machine. No? You take the energy, the muscle wants it. The more muscle you have, the more sugar is going to be utilized. You start moving around, the muscle needs energy, it burns it out. But again, this is not the best way to exercise. Same principle as food. Monday to Saturday, sit like that, then Sunday, start running. Same thing. Why? This is a slightly different principle though. The effects of exercise, unfortunately, as we get older, and this is talk about aging, our ability to utilize the energy gets less. Remember what happens. You exercise your body, very hungry, I need sugar, I need to move around. When you're young, you exercise, play football 1 hour, your body is hungry for sugar for 48 hours. Unfortunately, when you are 70 or 80, if you can play football, your body is only hungry for less than 24 hours. So, the effect of exercise, please don't let this stop you from exercise. Please exercise, but remember, it's not how much you exercise only, it's how you exercise. So you want to take advantage of this knowledge, what do? Exercise a little bit every day lah. Exercise, don't need to go, Sunday is my day to run 20 kilometers, the rest I don't do anything. There's no point, because if you run 20 kilometers on Sunday, Monday very good lah. You better eat everything on Monday, because Tuesday, Wednesday, all gone. Okay? So the recommendation from the HPB, yes, you need 150 minutes of exercise, but 10-minute intervals throughout the week. And I think that's the right principle. So what can I do if I have urinary symptoms already? What happens if I have diabetes and urinary symptoms? Well, I think healthy living, again, we've talked about that. I think losing weight is very important. Cutting down the alcohol, good sugar control, medications, and surgery if required. And I'm not going to go too much into this. All I can tell you now is there are options. Speak to your doctor. Each of it is specific. So the third take-home message, I think there are treatments available for urinary complications. I think it's important to control your sugar levels. You screen, please screen often. Eat well. Remember, it's not always what you eat, it's how you eat. Similar, exercise is not how much you exercise, it's how you exercise. And obviously, there's medical therapy if required. To summarize, I think I've stepped a bit over time. I think diabetes is a lot more than blood sugars. Diabetes is a lot more. Don't just say cut down your sugar. If you cut down your sugar only, you're only dealing with one problem. You're only seeing the top. Remember the iceberg. You're only doing the top. The bottom you're not looking at. You have to deal with the problem. Diabetes is associated with many complications. It's true, these things are real, however, they can be prevented. Diabetes can affect the urinary system. How does it do that? We drink a lot of water, we pass a lot of water because our body wants the same concentration of blood or plasma. We end up drinking, we pass a lot. Unfortunately, when our urine's very sweet, we get infections as well. We get nerve damage, and that causes us to run to the toilet faster or cannot pass so well, and unfortunately causes kidney failure. I think the treatment available for urinary complications, again, controlling sugars, screening for complications, eating well, exercise, and medical treatment. I think the final thing, and I always end my talks with this is actually mentioned by one of my patients who's unfortunately not here anymore, but she had the ethos correct. And this is, I think, summarizes diabetes management in one sentence. I do not want to suffer from diabetes, I want to live with it. And I think that's true. This talks about empowerment. Please don't think, like I said, that, oh, diabetes, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. Think about it. Change your lifestyle around. This is not something to suffer with. I hate it when people tell me, I love ice cream, but I got diabetes, I cannot eat anymore. You can. You can, in moderation, balanced diet, healthy living. Learn, speak to your doctor, and learn to live with diabetes. Do not suffer from diabetes. It's a lifestyle. Learn to live better. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ben. Oh, this topic is really very important, especially it touches my heart. You see my size, you know. Yeah, I'm like that Monday to Friday, then Sunday I just whack like mad. Any question from the floor? Yeah, ma'am? Is it curable?
This is a talk on its own. Why don't I put it in another manner? If one, there is, on extreme circumstances, has been bariatric surgery that's been shown to reverse diabetes for a period of time. I think select patients can do that, but I think to answer your question as an overall thing, I'll answer it this way. Many of my patients ask me, doctor, I take this medicine, is it for life? My answer back is that if you continue your same lifestyle, eat the same way, exercise the same way, not only do you have to take this medicine forever, you need more in a few years because you start to age. Remember, metabolic dysfunction. So what you try to do is you're not just managing the sugar. If you improve, say, doctor, I'm going to cut down my food, I'm going to exercise well, I'm going to lose weight, then, yeah, you may not need it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we want to get the metabolism better. If you can show yourself and me that the metabolism is better, what for? I give you pills you don't need. But keep in mind that we age. So many of my patients, for a few years, they can stop medicines, but ultimately, as they get older, there's a possibility they need it again. Okay?
Any questions? No? Okay. With this, no, then we give a round of applause to thank Dr. Ben. Thank you very much, Doctor. Okay, before we go on to the next topic, I would like to invite our dear friends to switch your mobile phone to the silent mode or just off it, all right, so that we have smooth operation of the whole seminar. Continence and mobility are some of the issues that faced by our seniors. These health conditions may result in social isolation as they feel embarrassed and avoid social contact and recreational activities. Such social isolation can affect the psychological and social well-being of seniors. Today, we are very happy to have with us Dr. Chan Kin Ming, consultant in geriatric medicine and also the chairman of Tai Hua Kwan Nursing Home, to share with us on this topic. So Dr. Chan is one of the pioneers of geriatric medicine in Singapore and has been practicing as a specialist in geriatric medicine for the past 27 years. He is involved in all sectors of geriatric care, ranging from hospital to community hospital to nursing homes to day rehab and day centers and home care. So with this, let's welcome Dr. Chan Kin Ming.
Hi, good afternoon. I see there are so many young people here. I feel a bit out of place as a geriatrician. How do I... left, right, Okay, anyway, today I'll be talking on two areas, and one is in the area of bladder problems in old age, and of course the other one, I thought since we are also mentioning about mental wellness, I will also give a few pointers about mental wellness so that we can all have that knowledge and we are all empowered to manage our own lives. Now, a lot of time when older people come and see me, they do not know what to expect when they grow older. That's why many of them comes and say that, oh, doctor, you know, I pass a lot of urine at night. So I ask them how many times. They say, oh, I wake up one time, or some of them say that I wake up twice every night. Wow, it's like so overwhelming that it affects them. And then they are 80 years old or 90 years old. So sometimes it's important for us to know how a normal older person behaves, so that when we compare ourselves with what older person is like, then we would know how different are we. Yeah. So when we look at the older person, of course, everything shrinks when we grow older, and we all know that maybe we used to be much taller, but when we grow older, we also shrink, right? By about 5 centimeters sometimes, or more if we are very osteoporotic. So everything becomes smaller, everything is weaker, and that is normal result of aging. So the capacity of the bladder is also smaller, and therefore, because of that, they can't hold the same amount of urine as when we were much younger. And at the same time, we find that the older person, sometimes their nerves are also a bit more sensitive than usual, and therefore, even though they have a little bit of urine, they feel like that is a lot, and hence they keep on rushing to the toilet. And by the way, I'm not talking about you. Please don't think that I'm talking about you, because many of us actually have that sensation that a little bit and we need to go toilet and so forth. And this happens especially at night because in a normal aging body, the hormonal changes is different, and we tend to produce more urine in the night rather than in the day. Now, for example, just as an example, when we were younger, maybe if we pass 1,000 mils of urine in a day, let's say, for example, then about 600-700 will be formed during the day and about 300 at night. So that 300 at night, we can hold it until we wake up in the morning. However, when we are older, this somehow is reversed. So we pass only 300 during the day and 600 at night. And it would be difficult for us to hold 600 mils of urine at night. And therefore, we need to wake up maybe 1 time, maybe 2 times, or even 3 times. And sometimes it is dependent on the age itself. And so if we know that we are expected and normally do pass urine during the night, then that would not be so alarming to us. Now, depending on our age, we find that when we are 60 to 70 years old, maybe we'll pass about 1 time at night, 70 to 80, about twice a night, and if you are more than 80 years old, then it is not unusual for us to be passing about 3 times at night. So I usually use this as a rough gauge to decide whether that person has a genuine problem that needs to be addressed, or the person just needs a bit of reassurance. And of course, when we talk about muscles being weaker, then the sphincter that is protecting the bladder, that is controlling continence in the bladder, would also be weaker. And as a result of that, it would become a challenge for the older person to hold the urine for too long. And therefore, some of them, sometimes because of the weakness of the sphincter, when they cough, when they carry a heavy load, or when they laugh loudly, some of the urine may actually leak out. And of course, we call that stress incontinence, and that partly is because of weakening of the bladder sphincter. And if we are looking at the bladder like a balloon, sometimes we overstretch the balloon, it doesn't go back to its original shape. And of course, when the person is older, when they're passing urine, sometimes they do not empty the bladder completely. And hence, there's a tendency for older people to retain urine even after passing, especially in men, because of the presence of a prostate, which is a bit of an obstruction at the neck of the bladder. And so if they retain a lot of urine, it would also increases the risk in older folks of urine infections, right? And people with enlarged prostate and people with stroke, people with diabetes, and even people with constipation may actually suffer from this problem of incomplete emptying and hence recurrent urine infections. Now, when we talk about incontinence, what basically is incontinence? Now, the International Continence Society defines incontinence as an involuntary loss of urine that is a social or hygienic problem and is objectively demonstrable. So the person actually tries to control but is unable to do so, and some of the urine sort of leaks out by accident. And so we call that urinary incontinence. And what is the impact of this bladder problem on mental wellness? Firstly, we find that they have a rather poor quality of life, and some of them are socially withdrawn as a result of this problem. Because when they go out as a group with friends, then they would feel that every now and then they would be looking for a toilet, right? And they would be visiting one toilet to another, and that can be a bit embarrassing. And they feel that they might be delaying other people because everyone say, come, let's go, and say, wait, hold on, I need to go to the toilet first. So after a while, your friends also may not want to go out with you, and you may also not want to go out with them because you feel that you are actually delaying the activities of the whole group. And of course, there's always that fear that you may have an accidental leakage, and that can be embarrassing because of the smell, because sometimes it may be so bad as to wet your pants, and it's obvious when people look at you. So that can have a negative impact on our mental wellness. And of course, we mentioned about embarrassment because of the smell and because other people knows that you have this particular problem. And that affects, to a certain extent, your self-esteem. And of course, when you have low self-esteem, you would also want to isolate yourself. And that is not good for the older folk, because we want the older folk to be happy, to be active, to be going out, rather than to be kept at home within the four walls, having little or no interaction with other people. And that by itself would bring about other mental wellness problems like depression, for example, and that would be something that I'll be talking about in a while. Okay, the third aspect where bladder problems can have an impact on mental wellness is depression. Now, depression in older folks is sometimes different from depression in the young. When a younger person is depressed, they can verbalize and say that I'm depressed. And they may, or of course, they may not seek help. But in the older person who is depressed, then we have this elderly geriatric or geriatric depression syndrome. They may not show up as a mood disturbance, and they may just present as sleep disturbance. They will just say that I cannot sleep. Actually, they can fall asleep, but they wake up very early, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., for no reason, they will just wake up. And then after that, when older people wake up, I'm sure you know what they do, right? They go toilet. After that, what do? They start thinking. They think about this, they think about that, and a lot of times they think about the negative things rather than the positive and the happy things. So that would be one form of geriatric depression syndrome. Of course, the other symptoms of older people having depression would be what we call apathy. They just don't want to do anything. In fact, sometimes it can be so severe, and one of my patient's son actually told me that my mom is like a piece of furniture. You put her here, she'll be here. You put her there, she'll be there. She don't move. If you put a plate of rice in front of her, she won't eat, but you feed her, she will eat, So there's a lot of inertia in doing things for themselves. And they are just quite happy to just sit down quietly, don't talk, don't do anything, until you move them to another place. So that is apathy, which could be another way in which older people with depression may actually shows up in terms of symptom. And of course, the other common symptom of depression in older people would be lack of energy. They are tired all the time, they do a little bit of thing and they are tired and they are bad mood, they get angry easily, and they are very impatient, and we call that agitated depression. And again, we see that very common in older people. And certainly, if the person has bladder problem, has urinary incontinence, that would be a way in which it could trigger elderly depression in the elderly. And of course, sometimes when the family knows about the incontinence problem, then they may restrict the activity of the older folks. You better don't come out to the living room because my sofa, you wet my sofa, then I'll be dead because it is so expensive and it is branded and so on and so forth. Of course, such things can happen and do happen, and hence you find that there is some family rejection because they do not understand what the problem is, and it increases the risk of admissions into nursing homes. So a simple thing like urinary incontinence, which if discovered, if investigated and treated early, can be treatable, can become so severe as to end up in a nursing home, if you ask me, for no good reasons. Now, if our skin is always bathed in urine and it is moist and it is wet and it is warm all the time, then of course it is very easy for us to end up with skin infections. And sometimes the skin infections may be as a result of wearing of diapers, that adds to the heat and the poor air circulation in the area. And so there will be skin infections, and of course the patients may sometimes increase the risk of having sores in the buttocks and in the sacral area. And many of them feels that, okay, since I am passing so much urine, I'm wetting myself, the best way to prevent this would be a self-imposed restriction of fluid intake. And that is the worst thing to do, right? Because the treatment is not by restricting water. Even if you restrict fluid, if you have enough urine in the bladder, it will still leak because of the incontinence problem. So the treatment should be to seek treatment, not to restrict fluid, make yourself dehydrated, and end up with even more problems, affecting the kidney, increasing risk of urine infection, drowsiness, confusion, and so forth, as a result of self-imposed restriction of fluid with dehydration that the person may have. Now, the impact of bladder problem is not just on the older person, but also on the caregiver. And so it increases caregiver stress, and of course, with that, it increases the risk of elder abuse as well. So this is a common problem, this is a treatable problem, and we should not allow it to escalate to the point of developing rejection by the family and, of course, a very poor quality of life for the sufferer. So what can we do? I'd like to share with you some good bladder habits. Firstly, it is normal for us to go to toilet about 4 to 8 times during the day, and maybe once or twice at night, so that is quite normal, and provided we are also drinking sufficient water. And we are talking about 8 to 10 glasses of water. And of course, if it is hot and if you are physically active, then we should be drinking even more than the recommended 8 glasses of water a day. So that is the first thing. We need to know what a normal bladder habit is like. Secondly, we should not get into the habit of going to the toilet just in case. I think many of us do that, right? Because it sounds like common sense. When I wake up, I can't sleep, so I better go to the toilet. Whether I need to or not, I better go to the toilet just in case I fall asleep, then I don't have to wake up the next time. And it is this just in case that will make the brain to become sensitive to small bladder volumes. And because once the brain is tuned to small bladder volume, then you'll find that every time it hits that small bladder volume, you will need to go to the toilet. And hence, you are actually creating, increasing the frequency of passing water for yourself. Because ultimately, you find that it is your brain that senses the fullness of your bladder, and it's your brain that has the ability to suppress it when you can't go to the toilet at that point in time. And so if you reverse all that, then every time you have that sensation and you go, you are actually training your brain to keep on going to the toilet and emptying when actually your bladder could hold a bit more. So that is important, that we should not get into the habit of going to the toilet just in case. Now, toileting is something that is quite personal, and we definitely need time. We need time to empty our bladder completely, because when we are anxious, you find that your brain will suppress all the sensation of urge to pass urine, and therefore you find that when you are in a hurry, you basically either don't need to go toilet, or you basically can't empty your bladder completely. So when we are anxious, the brain, the body will produce certain hormones, and that will suppress the sensation of the bladder, and that will suppress the contraction of the bladder. So when people are going for a fight, they won't say, wait, let me go toilet first, then I fight with you. No, because all the hormones and all the anxiety is there to suppress the bladder activities during that point in time. Therefore, when we need to go toilet, we need to do it at leisure. Don't be in a hurry, don't rush. Because if you rush, you'll find that you won't be able to empty the bladder fully. And over time, you may also get a distended bladder, and over time, you may get a bladder infection with retention of the bladder, of the urine as well. And of course, we recommend that women should sit when they are in the toilet and don't squat on the on the toilet seat itself. Squatting is actually not very good for the pelvic floor muscles. You may actually stretch it, you may actually loosen it, weaken it, and therefore it increases the risk of stress incontinence later on. And of course, to keep good bowel habits, because the bowel movement and the bowel function is closely related to bladder function as well. And later on, I'll show you a slide, and you can actually understand how this would happen, because if you look at the slide, the rectum is right behind the bladder, and the rectum is right behind the bladder. Is there a pointer? Oh no. Right, the rectum is right behind the bladder in front there, and if the rectum is distended with stools, you are constipated, then the stools would actually be compressing onto the urethra, and so the urine can be obstructed and the urine actually cannot come out. So it's important that if we want to have good bladder function, we should also have good bowel function. And what do we do to encourage a good bowel habits? Firstly, lots of fruits, vegetables, and stay active. In fact, I always tell my patients, your bowels move only when you move. Right? If you keep on sitting and lying down, then there is very little gut motility. And as a result of this, you will just become easily constipated. And that's what happened to people with stroke who are bedridden, because they can't move, and therefore most of them would end up with constipation problem. And constipation can affect bladder function. Drink plenty of fluids, 1.5 to 2 liters each day, unless your doctor tells you that you can't because of kidney problem or because of heart problem. So you have to see and check with your doctor whether you have any fluid restriction or not. And then if there are no fluid restriction, then that would be the amount of fluids that you should take. And of course, caffeine would irritate the bladder. So we should cut down on caffeine, we should cut down on alcohol, because all these may upset your bladder function as well. Okay, if you need to drink something, then tea have less caffeine than coffee. Instant coffee has less caffeine than brewed coffee. So depending on how your body responds, then you can choose the level that your body can tolerate the caffeine without affecting your bladder functions. Now that's the pelvic floor. Is a rim of muscles that stretches from the bone in front, the pubic bone in front, to the coccyx, behind the sacrum. And this is like a saddle, that holds the uterus up, that holds the bladder up, and that's also where the rectum passes through before it goes out as the anus. And that pelvic floor is extremely important because that will be part of the muscle of that pelvic floor forms the sphincter. Earlier on, remember I told you the sphincter is important to maintain continence. And if you cough and urine leaks out, then probably it's because the sphincter is weak. And sometimes it could also be that the pelvic floor muscles are weak. So we also teach our patients how to do pelvic floor exercises by squeezing the ring of muscles around the back passage. It's like telling the person, okay, it's like when you need to pass flatus and you can't, so you have to control it. That is the muscle that is actually the pelvic floor. And sometimes very difficult for us to explain that, and the person would need to feel it themselves. So one way of asking them to feel it is that when you are passing water, then halfway through, you stop the flow. When you do that action, it is actually the action of the pelvic floor muscles. And that is only for you to identify and recognize that feeling and knows how to do it. Once you have recognized how that feeling is and how that is done, then the next time you just keep on doing it. That is pelvic floor exercises, and you identify the correct muscle, you hold the contraction for 10 seconds, then you relax, and then you contract again, relax, contract again, relax, repeat 4 to 5 times, maybe 3 times a day, and that is quite effective for patients, especially with stress incontinence. Okay, but don't keep on passing urine and then stopping it in between. That is just to teach you how to identify that muscles. Because if you keep on doing that, then that may not be too good, because the bladder is contracting and you are also contracting at the sphincter. In time to come, you do it too much, it may actually damage the bladder as well. So that is only for identification of how to do it and the feeling and the muscle. After that, you just do it even without, without passing water. Now, medications are something that will ultimately affect bladder function. And many older folks, unfortunately, have whole bags of medicine. So usually when we ask them, the next time you come, can you bring your medicine along? And it will be a few NTUC bags. And then they will just put Peng in front. And then, oh, there are so many, how to go through, A lot and lots of medicine. And a lot of time, this medicine will cause constipation, and it will cause bladder problems as well, including heart medicine. Sometimes when we have swollen feet, we are breathless, we have water in the lungs, your doctor say, take this medicine, it will help to pass the excess water out, furosemide or Lasix. That can cause incontinence because you suddenly have so much urine you cannot control, and therefore you wet yourself. And vitamins, iron, calcium, people will say that, oh, these are okay because they are goodies, they are good for the body. Yes, they are also very constipating, and therefore they can affect bladder function. Diarrhea medicine, flu medicine, Parkinson's disease medicine can weaken bladder muscles. So It doesn't mean that if you have Parkinson, don't take medicine, please. You still need to take it, but you will have to let your doctors know if after taking it, you have a bladder and a bowel problem. Okay? Because there are ways for which we can overcome that problem. Drugs that can cause constipation include the flu medicine, cough mixture, painkillers, and even certain blood pressure pills. And so it is important that when we develop this problem, we discuss with our primary doctor and so that they know about this problem and they are able to rectify it either by adjusting the dose or changing the medicine or giving additional tablets to help us overcome the constipation and the bladder problems. And drugs that sedate or dull the mind, like sleeping pills, anxiety medicine, can also cause bladder and bowel problems. Now, keeping physically active, regular exercise is important, especially for older folks. In fact, when older people stop exercising, that is when you can actually see them declining very quickly. You know, and every time when they come and see me, the first thing I ask them is, do you exercise? How much do you walk? Are you walking? Especially when they come and see me sitting on a wheelchair. Sometimes it's because they say it's far, you know, so their children in a hurry, so sit them on a wheelchair and push faster. But I'd rather they walk, because that will be a form of exercise as well. And that's important because I feel reassured when I see my patients walking in rather than being wheeled in, you know, because at least I know that, oh, they walk this way, they are able to walk, they are not breathless, they don't have any leg pain, backache, you know, breathless, and so on. So keep physically active is very important. And of course, we need to seek help early. Okay, when do we seek help? When we wet ourselves accidentally, when we strain, like cough, sneeze, laugh, or lift heavy objects. When we have an urgent need to pass water, to pass urine, have a strong feeling that we can't hold anymore, and we need to rush the toilet. Or when we urgent, but we pass very little urine. And then, in half an hour's time, we feel urgent again, and we pass very little urine. These are telltale signs that something is not right, and we need to seek help early. And when we need to take a long time to pass urine, you know, especially for male, because of the enlarged prostate, sometimes they stand and stand and stand, waiting for the urine to initiate a smooth flow, and they have problem, then that may be a sign that the person may be having an enlarged prostate and therefore should quickly have to seek treatment to prevent this from becoming worse. And when we need to strain to pass urine. Okay, so things like this are very important. And sometimes it's a whole cycle of life, you know. When we are young, how do our parents train us to pass urine? Right? They whistle, right? Yeah, they whistle. I don't know why whistle, but these are old age wisdom. So sometimes when the older person has difficulty initiating, we ask them, maybe you want to whistle. And of course, hearing the flow of running water also helps. That's why when it rains, the toilet very full, you know, because raining or fountain, the sound of waterfall and all that somehow triggers the mind, and the person tends to pass urine. So sometimes we need to tell them, okay, when you need to pass urine, cannot come out, turn on the tap, you know. But of course, you turn on until PUB want to cut off your water supply, then you know that you have a problem. You better go and see the doctor before your water bills go up. Okay? And when the problem is affecting your leisure activities, you have to give up things that you enjoy, like walking, aerobics, dancing, because of poor bladder bowel control, you know, or when there is a change in your regular habits, then that's something that you need. So who do you go to? Yeah, of course, please go to your general practitioner. They'll be able to sort out the simple problems. Sometimes the simple problem may be constipation, maybe a urine infection, just a course of antibiotics and everything settles down. But of course, if it needs to be more complex, then you may go to visit a continence clinic in some of the restructured hospitals, or you may visit your urologist, gynecologist, or geriatrician, and all of them are more than able to manage whatever bladder and urinary problems that you may have. Now, bladder weakness are just some of the aspects that can affect the overall health of the person. Because if we talk about health, it is not just the physical part of it as well. There's also the mental well-being, there's also the spiritual wellness that we are talking about. So we find that, in fact, in medical science, we realize that those with a religion tends to do better in sickness than those who are without. And perhaps that is the spiritual support that they get that helps them to help their body to respond better to treatment and to stress. So now I'll just share with you 7 tips to improve our mental wellness. Firstly, we need a focused time. We need a time that we have to focus on challenges, focus on a goal-orientated way, in a goal-orientated way, like solving a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle, doing Sudoku, doing a research on what stock and shares you want to invest in. Sometimes you need not buy, you just do an exercise, you know. You say, oh, today I want to buy this, you know, I want to buy how much. And then you go and track the stock, but don't have to put in money. So even if you win also, no use. But that is just for your mental stimulation, you know, just for fun and for mental stimulation. Which school should you send your child to? Which is the top primary school? You know, so I make sure my grandchildren goes in there, do some research about the school, this and that, where to go on holiday, which are the best places to eat, and so on. So that you are engaged. So it is focus time. Your brain focus, concentrate, and try to achieve something out of that. And that is important for as part of the whole process of keeping our mind sharp. And then, of course, you can't be concentrating and being so serious 24 hours a day, right? So there must be playtime. So you enjoy new experience, you try to be creative, you learn how to play ukulele, you learn how to dance, you learn how to sing karaoke, you learn a new language, and so on. So these are playtime, you know, for enjoyment. It's not so much that at the end I must know how to speak Japanese, you know. It is just the whole process of going through the motion and enjoying the process of learning and so forth. So that is playtime. And then there is connecting time when we connect with other people. Go to the coffee shop, chit-chat, you know, talk about politics. No, cannot talk about politics. Talk about other things other than politics, you know. Talk about health, talk about urinary incontinence. So there is connecting time where we just connect with people, just talk about anything under the sun. And then there is physical time, exercise, aerobics, you know, cycling, and so on. Learn how to skateboard, and that's where I broke my arm last year. Don't do that, don't do that. Not very smart. And then you need personal time, a time of personal reflection where we just sit down and think through what have we done in the past, what have we achieved, think about our family and things like that. So this is time in, okay? And then, of course, there is also a time we call downtime, you know, where we let our minds wander and daydream. Actually, daydreaming is very important, right? So when someone caught you daydreaming, you say, I'm practicing one of the 7 habits of mental wellness. But don't let our grandchildren or our children know, because they are daydreaming all the time. So even for ourselves, I think sometimes it's good to daydream, you know, because that our mind is relaxed and we are allowed to wonder and think about all sorts of things, and that also gives a sense of fulfillment to the person. And then, of course, there is sleep time where we let our minds relax and recuperate from the day's experience. So in summary, Today we learn about how the bladder function changes with age, what is a normal bladder function, and why sometimes things do not happen as they are. We learn about the impact of bladder problem has on mental wellness, develop depression, embarrassment, social isolation, rejection by the families, and so on. We learn about good bladder habits and where to seek help. We learn about the 7 tips of mental wellness, and of course, the rest will be up to you to put them into practice. Thank you very much, and I'll be happy.
Thank you, doctor. And we're going to open to questions. Any questions to ask Dr. Chan?
No, I think in terms of frequency, of course, up to 4 to 8 times. But if we are going less, but we are passing, in terms of volume, each time is quite a lot, then I think that is acceptable, that is quite normal. Sorry?
Color of the urine.
No, color of the urine sometimes is affected by the food that we eat and also by the medicine that we take. But generally, it should be either clear or very light chrysanthemum tea color.
It's like apple juice.
The Yo Hiap Sing type, the not too type. A bit yellow, a bit yellow. Yeah. But of course, the color of the urine sometimes is a reflection of the health of the person. If we drink a lot of water and yet the urine is like Chinese tea, then of course we may be having a liver problem. And so we need to seek help regarding that. But if we are just talking about clear, between clear and light yellow, and then clear, light yellow, I think that's fine. Of course, if we see red, then we should assume that maybe there is blood and we should seek help quickly.
Yeah, over that side.
What happens if the urine has bubbles?
Bubbles in urines. Okay.
No significance. No significance.
Too much gassy drink.
The gas came out from there.
Any more question?
My grandson, he's now 15 years old, but I think for more than a year, he passed his urine, got bubbles in the urine. So we were very worried. I don't know anything wrong with his kidney. Sent him to see a GP. They did the urine FEME. The result came back as normal. I also seek a Chinese physician. Then he said it's all right now. If the result is normal, then it's all right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Cannot be normal, isn't it? If you're passing bubbles in the urine.
No. Sometimes that can happen.
Yeah.
If the urine is a bit alkaline, and then of course if it goes down onto the water and there's a lot of turbulence,
So
it can be bubbly. Yes.
Yeah.
Is
It creates
okay?
bubble.
Normal?
I think it creates. Yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
It creates bubble. Not that when it comes out there is bubble in the urine. That would be abnormal. But when it hits the water,
Yeah, it hit the water.
like you go and see the Merlion, the water goes down, a lot of bubble. That's all right.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It creates bubbles. Any more question? Yeah, okay.
Doctor, do you agree sometimes you take barley water, beer, that triggers a lot of urine also?
Yes. No, beer definitely, because alcohol is a diuretic. Tea is a diuretic, caffeine is a diuretic. So diuretic means that it will induce you to produce more urine than usual. So of course, when you drink alcohol, you do pass a lot of urine. Yeah.
Bali as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Any more questions? Yeah. Sorry, can't hear you.
Yes, medication do affect the color of the urine. Yeah. No, if it is because of the medication, then it's perfectly fine. Because we have certain types of tablets, for example, urologic. It's like a red bean kind of color. And I always tell my patients that when you take this medicine, that red color will come out in your urine. So when you see orangey, reddish color, don't be alarmed. So I think the doctor, when they are prescribing medications that could change the color of the urine, should inform you so that you will not be so alarmed when you take it and see that the color changes. Cloudy urine, yeah, cloudy urine, of course, is abnormal. It may indicate some infections that the person may have.
Doctor, when you wake up in the morning and you say you urine in the pot, and then it creates bubbles. Okay, you say no, normal. But I'm being told you may have approved to uric acid. But because throughout the whole day, if you take water and you pass urine, you don't have that problem of this creating bubble. So is it maybe the presence of uric acid, too much uric acid?
No, at night, of course, your urine, by the time it comes in the morning, your urine will be a bit more concentrated. Whereas during the day, you drink more, you'll be less concentrated. So whatever components inside there will be diluted. So you may have or you may not have bubbles in the urine. But usually that's not of much significance in that sense.
No, I'm talking about this uric acid problem.
Uric acid?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
If you are gout, you have gout, you have this problem, see? Gout.
I know,
Gout.
but uric acid is in the blood. Yeah. Sometimes, of course, it gets excreted in the urine as well. And of course, if the uric acid levels are high now, you may actually have a uric acid stone in the kidney. You know?
I like this question, doctor. She's asking the smell of the urine.
Yeah.
Strong smell, is it dangerous?
No, you have to know whether is it just strong urine smell because you are dehydrated, because the urine is concentrated, or is it something that is indicative of an infection? I think it's very difficult to just base whether have infection, no infection, just based on the smell. You know, but of course, sometimes it's so obvious because it's so foul smelling, we know straight away that it is an infection.
Okay, let's go for the last question. Any more?
Taking alkaline water. No, actually I don't know. I know that there has been diamond water and this water, that water.
Like
that
lemon.
helps, but there's no real scientific proof, that it helps or it doesn't help. So my advice is that if you drink it and you feel good, then carry on. I don't think it does any harm to the body in that sense.
Excuse me, doctor. Will too much tea affect the bone? To give pain to the bone? Is it cooling?
Too much tea
Drinking
give
too
what?
much tea.
Give what?
Give pain to the bone. Is it considered cooling?
To the
effect?
bone, is it?
Ah,
To the
Bones.
bone.
I think in Western medicine, we do not have this concept of hot and cold.
yeah. Okay.
So,
okay. Because I'm having this ache in my back now, because I think I suspect that it's drinking too much tea.
no, so I suppose if you cut it down and see whether the pain is still there,
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we have talked a little bit too much about urine. So it's time for us to go for a toilet break, yeah? Okay, so can we give a round of applause for Dr. Chan, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, toilet break is just right outside. We have a tea break. Please come down from the main entrance. All right, but before we go, can we give a round of applause to thank Mr. Seah for joining us at this seminar? Thank you.